Hello there. What?
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, Rainbow said, holding her cards up to her face to hide her blush.
Spoilers. Alright. How are we all doing today? Got a little bit of something different this time, so let's see. Get the browser in here. We're going to be going over Lily Orchard's savagely disgusting fanfic, Stockholm, allegedly by Lily Orchard, I should say. I don't really have good, clear evidence of that, although we'll go over it. I think this has a bit of notoriety among, like, the fanfictions, which is like the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fanfic repository. I'll admit I don't know a huge amount about My Little Pony. I know enough. Like, I know the characters. I know your Derpy Hooves and such. I don't think Derpy Hooves appears in... Oh, Ethel jump scare. Derpy Hooves appears in this fanfic. I'm hoping not. They better not have messed with my Derpy Hooves. Anyway, we'll start out watching this, which goes over like the basics of this fanfic and such. I'm just gonna be doing like kind of basic sporking of the first two chapters, which, if you don't know what that is, I kind of go through like the Cliff Notes version of the story, make fun of really dumb stuff, things that should be pointed out, like with the writing and the plot and such, and believe you me, there is plenty to go over with this story, because it is insane. It's also fairly disgusting. Like, I was thinking about that earlier, because there's like a really disgusting Gravity Falls fanfic called Dipper Goes to Taco Bell, which, granted, is disgusting, but I don't think it really holds a candle to this, at least in the disgust that gravitates in me. I don't know. Like, the Dipper one's like much more like visceral. Like, per square inch of, like, per word, it's much more disgusting. Like, Stockholm's much more spread out, but it's kind of more sinister in some ways. We'll get to it. We'll have fun. This is just a fun, relaxed stream.
Loves to rewrite history. Indeed, it's like...
What?
Lily Orchard loves to rewrite history. Indeed, it's something she's been doing for so long that it seems to have become second nature by this point, and today's topic is no exception. I speak, of course, of Lily Orchard's Stockholm series, how she denies she ever wrote it, and the mountain of evidence that proves she's lying to her audience. Before we get around to that, I just need to give a content warning for the following: sexualization of minors, sexual abuse apologia, mentions of incest, coercion, dead names in archived documents, and gaslighting.
Essence of Thought,
if you
by
like
the way,
our work and appreciate the research
so dry to me.
video, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. You can also support us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. Hi there, my name's Ethel Thurston, and we're here to...
yeah, that's not gonna work. Hello, Ethel. I remember Ethel, like, put Evangelina Skov and a bunch of shit, because, like, Evangelina Skov did a video on Lily Orchard, and Ethel's like, you plagiarized me, I'm the only one allowed to talk about Lily Orchard, that's all of my stuff, I'm obsessed, watch my 10 different videos about Lily and how bad she is. I only care about this particular one because this goes over the fanfic Stockholm.
Today to talk about the evidence, both old and new, that Lily Orchard wrote.
Like, I'm not here to like relitigate all the drama about Lily Orchard, at least not in this stream.
But also contains real-life arguments in support of child rape. We'll also be discussing Lily's latest argument, how it was already debunked before she made it, and why that seems to display a degree of desperation in her recent actions. This video is the most recent in a series of exposés centered on Lily Orchard. Our first video shared archived evidence of Lily Orchard publicly encouraging them.
Gonna skip ahead to...
With that noted, let's start with a recap
There
of
we
what
go.
Stockholm is in order to understand why it's so important. Stockholm is a series of fanfics written by Lily Orchard and Nintendo Gal 55, consisting of Stockholm, the first fanfic, followed by Valentine's Day, Twicentia, Limits, both parts 1 and 2, the Razzle Dazzle, the Dash
Oh,
family,
God.
the Littlest Dash.
I just noticed, like, the Dash family's, like, 58 chapters. Like, Vanilla Stockholm's, like, 27 chapters, okay? And even that's murder, because it's, like, longer than some novels. Probably, like, next stream I'll try and dump it into, like, a text file so I can see, like, how many pages come to. But it's not short. Like, I feel like it's in the hundreds.
Dazzle, and lastly, Illicit Disco, all of which were published during 2014 and 2015. The series is a mashup of Lee's other writing project, Tale of the Valkyrie, and Hasbro's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, with many of its characters taken from the MLP show. However, the one we're interested in is Stockholm, the original.
I'm honestly kind of... My interest is piqued in the Lily Orchard fanfic Tale of the Valkyrie, because... Like, I'm sure it's also poorly written, but it's kind of intriguing in, like, that cheesy fantasy way. Like, we got, like, overpowered god beings, like, jumping between universes and all of that jazz.
Fanfic largely follows three groups. We have Fluttershy and Intersex Rainbow Dash, we have Essentia, yes, that Essentia, and Twilight Sparkle, and lastly, we have the Cutie Mark Crusaders, the CMC, consisting of Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and Apple Bloom,
i.e. the children that get... Yeah, no.
Originally introduced as preteens, so 9 to 12 years of age, before being aged up to 13 and later 14. This is in spite of the fact that the events of the fanfic seem to take place over a span of a few months. This will become important later. The fanfic follows Shy and Dash as Shy leaves her current relationship to be with Dash, Essentia and Twilight as they try for a child in spite of
Ugh. We'll get to Essentia and Twilight Sparkle in good time, don't worry.
Twilight being incredibly abusive, and the CMC as they begin their sexual exploration. And yeah, you can probably see where this is going. To be clear, I'm not going to cover the entire thing, nor is this our detailed literary analysis of said piece. I just want to summarize
I'll
6
cover the
chapters
entire
to give
thing.
you a general idea of the nature
I'll do a detailed literary analysis of the entire fanfic. You better prepare
of
yourselves.
fanfic and why it is as controversial as it is. Chapter 7, Dateless When We Turn 16, has Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle talk about having sex around Dash, who offers them her bed as she and Fly leave the house. We then get an extremely graphic description of the girls, who, reminder, are 14, having sex. Sweetie Belle then tells Apple Bloom that...
But remember, they're 14 in the aged-up version. They're 14 when tried to fix the age to make it less creepy.
She gets aroused when she sees her sister naked, because of course, this wouldn't be a Lily Orchard piece without incest. When Dash and Fly return, Dash realizes she's recorded the pair having sex, so due to fears of being imprisoned, formats the drive. That's when Sweetie Belle comes down and hugs Dash, only to be prodded by Dash's erection. Lily has Sweetie Belle apologize to Dash, Dash talks about how lesbians don't tend to like women with penises, and Sweetie Belle tells Dash to give her and Apple Bloom a call if Dash is still dateless.
Excuse me? Transbians are a thing. Well,
When the pair turns 16. Chapter 7 ends with Dash discovering Sweetie Belle's underwear along with an accompanying note written by her, offering said underwear as a token of appreciation, which Dash ultimately keeps. Chapter 14, What I Call Double Dash, has the CMC board trying to figure out what they should do, and since this is a Lily Orchard fanfic, the solution involves the three of them going back to their hideout, forming a polycule, and having a threesome. They then head over to Dash's house and tell her about what happened, at which point Lily has Dash make a joke about drugging the three of them. Scootaloo discovers that Dash is intersex and goes on to laud her as the ultimate lesbian fantasy, as Dash lets the three know that they're welcome in her house anytime. Sweetie Belle then tells the other CMC members to leave their underwear behind as a token for Dash, only to let slip that Dash fantasizes about raping them. This results in both Applebloom and Scootaloo feeling uncomfortable,
Stranger
particularly Scootaloo,
danger.
who is currently in the process of being adopted by Dash, yet Sweetie Belle calms them down. Dash then graphically fantasizes about raping Scootaloo, whilst having Shy join in, with Scootaloo calling Shy her mummy. Chapter 20,
You're just gonna hear
Sweetheart,
Lily's groaning.
down here, is the chapter in which Lily writes Sweetie Belle to be the one making a move on Dash, leading Dash to reach for emergency pills that apparently turn off a person's sex drive. This is also the chapter in which Dash molests Scootaloo following her breakup with Shy, which, yeah, speaks for itself. Yet it's chapter 21, Want to Talk, that really takes things a step further in how fucked up this entire thing is. After Scootaloo tells the CMC about what happened, not only do they brush off what was done to her as a non-issue, but Applebloom and Sweetie Belle proceed to pressure Scootaloo into having sex with them to make up for her almost cheating on them. Because she was molested. I think I said it best in my notes when I wrote, fucking shoot me. Though, not to worry, Scootaloo isn't the only one being blamed, with Scootaloo telling Shy that it's her fault for leaving, and Sweetie Belle being made to wear trousers to stop her from tempting Dash. Notice the displacement of blame going on? It's not very subtle. Shy and the CMC then turn up at Dash's house to discover that, out of nowhere, Dash and Essentia are having a brawl, a fact that will also become relevant later. Twilight turns up, gives a big lecture, and Dash is institutionalized. Chapter 22, with your insignia on it, the second to last chapter, has everyone doubting their decisions. Scootaloo is not shown to have been harmed in any way and just wants to be around Dash, who is allowed physical contact with Scootaloo. In fact, Lily goes so far as to have Scootaloo be the one to defend Dash's actions.
Here, hold on, I'll provide a link to this in chat. Let nobody say I was stealing content. I am not a content thief. Sorry if I'm not having a lot to remark here. I'm just this is like the third time I've watched this video today. And I'm just kind of so done with this, not the fanfic. I'm all ready to go all in on that. I'm just itching. I'm waiting for it.
One of the key themes is Shy feeling that she was a fair weather friend for not sticking out with Dash to the very end.
I will point out, a lot of these disgusting things Ethel is just listing off one after the other, like it's some sort of shopping list. These are all things like chapter 20 and beyond. We won't be getting to any of this stuff today. That doesn't mean we won't be getting to some disturbing shit. You'll
with
see.
Everyone blaming her breakup with Dash for what Dash did to Scootaloo. Hey, could you imagine believing that someone breaking up with you gave you a free pass on your own terrible behaviour? Now where have I heard that before? Said narrative is carried over into chapter 23, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Twilight's abuse is given a pardon by a professional because it's apparently what Essentia has come to expect from life and she should therefore keep indulging in it. Sweetie Belle is further punished for the actions of a child predator, and the fanfic ends with a very ham-fisted letter by Twilight to Princess Celestia, closing with, I've learned, I think we all have, that to truly be with someone, you have to take the good with the bad. Don't be a fair weather friend. Take the one you love at their best and worst, or not at all. Your former student, Twilight Sparkle. Now, if you've watched the MLP series...
And by at their worst, she means when they commit sex crimes against you. Oh, this story is so fucked.
You know that Twilight's letters are the summary of whichever moral lesson has been learned throughout the episode. Considering this, alongside Shy's own feelings in the previous chapter, and the overall message of Lily's fanfic is laid out quite literally in black and white. To report someone who has sexually assaulted a minor makes you a fair weather friend. That is Lily's main moral lesson to the reader, that you should enable someone who abuses children. Do note that this is a very condensed summary. We haven't even touched on Dr. Scorcher's pseudoscientific justifications for pedophilia, the way Lily blames their feelings on the presence of a penis, or who exactly Rainbow Dash is meant to represent, though I imagine many of you have some thoughts on that. But returning to what we've covered, there are central themes to note, namely the many ways in which Lily presents child molestation as often being child-led and harmless. Like a Catholic priest arguing that the choir boy came onto him, everything Lily writes in Stockholm is intended to deflect responsibility from Rainbow Dash onto her victims. We also...
Well, the other thing we see a lot here is, that, it's not a crime or it's not molestation if they like it. Like, that gets pulled a lot during this fic. It's actually really gross.
Also see straight up rape apologetics in other forms, as can be seen in Chapter 8 when Essentia tells Rainbow Dash that the age of consent in the region is 14. This is a real life argument I have seen people make, attempting to justify child rape on the basis that it's legal in certain countries. This, by the way, is why I fundamentally reject a legalist argument and position. Laws are as flawed as the people who make them, and if you're treating said laws as an authority, you have no place in this conversation. This section is a big part of why I said the rule at...
Also, it needs to be said, because as Ingrid brought up, there's a lot of misunderstandings about age of consent, being like 16 most places. That doesn't mean that it's okay for like adults to predate on children, on teenagers. What that means is like an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old getting together is not criminal under that jurisdiction.
At the end of Stockholm comes out of nowhere. Throughout the fanfic, Essentia is shown to be supportive of Dash until we reach the end, at which point she has a dramatic shift in character. Now, there's a variety of explanations for this, the simplest being Lily's poor writing, though it's also possible that Lily included said rule so that she could use it to pretend like she didn't support pedophilia, whilst ignoring how the final chapter undermines any such pretense. This also seems to be why Lily aged up the CMC from preteens to 14-year-olds, specifically so she could use Essentia to make this argument. It'd be far more difficult to convince people of said legalist argument if the CMC were 9-year-olds, so aging them up, but forgetting to go back and properly edit said ages, seems to have been Lily's way of maximizing...
I mean, I chuckle, but it's like, it's really fucked. Like, if they're supposed to be like 9 years old, there's like no way you can argue that. That's disgusting and insane.
Her chances, because the content Lily puts out has a direct impact on her audience's perceptions, minors included. Take Mackenzie, for example, one of Lily's victims who was a minor at the time. In their testimony, they discussed how Lily's work and general behavior desensitized them towards sexual interactions between minors and adults, disarming their defenses and enabling Lily to sext them. All because they've been led to perceive such interactions as normal due to what Lily posts. And they note the existence of Stockholm among the materials Lily put out. So this
I have to say, with like the Ava Chris Tyson stuff going around right now, this just becomes like more and more relevant.
Isn't hypothetical. We have real life victims that this sort of rhetoric and general exposure...
Why do there have to be like so many like trans content creators like this? Like, I'm not like this. I find this disgusting. Like honestly, anybody with that kind of pedophilic intent, lock them up and throw away the key. Like, this is just like complete bullshit. I don't even want to be associated with these people.
Has worked on. A fact worth keeping in mind throughout all of this. It isn't just a fanfic, it's a propaganda piece. Materials designed to influence the perceptions of the reader. Returning to Essentia, I found myself feeling extremely disturbed once I learned of her history in Stockholm. Whenever I saw her in later writings or other works, all I could see was the woman Lily wrote as a mouthpiece for literal child rape apologia, and I don't think this connection is lost on Lily, given that she created the character in the first place.
I actually, based on what I've read of the story, kind of feel a little bad for Essentia. Like, not for that, but like, it just seems like the universe in the fanfic is designed to just beat Essentia into the ground. Like, it's like the rules of the universe themselves hate her. and she's supposed to just put her chin up and enjoy it.
And yet, Lily has continued to use Essentia as recently as July of 2021. Which is something I think demonstrates that any attempts by Lily to distance herself from Stockholm over the years, as we'll see in a second, doesn't stem from a sense of guilt, but rather pragmatism. Lily was perfectly comfortable with continuing to use a character for almost a decade who openly attempted to justify child rape, only phasing her out as more people began discussing the evidence surrounding Stockholm to a wider audience. The last general thing I want to note is that the sex scenes between minors or minors and adults are written no differently to scenes between adults. That is to say that they are written to be sexually gratifying for the reader. To give
That being said, no, what I've read, none of the sex scenes in Stockholm are, let's say, sexually gratifying to this reader. They're all kind of uniformly either too boring or too disgusting. Sorry, the erotica in this erotic fanfic just doesn't do it.
give you a specific example of what I mean. During both the bedroom scene between Sweetie Belle and Applebloom and the group's later threesome, Lily goes so far as to describe what the girl's genitals taste like.
Many such cases. We get a lot of flavor talk. I have some notes here later as we get into it about like the mystery flavors. It's wild. It's like when you have those like cans of Pringles at the store and you look at like all the different flavors. You got like the pizza flavor ones, the sour cream and onion flavor ones. This is like, you pick your different flavors of dick. You got your sour cream dick, you got your pizza dick. It really is fucking like that.
This is not a piece that alludes to child sexuality in a fade out to black kind of way, which Lily does use in other places throughout Stockholm, so she knows how to do so, nor is it a piece that touches on the horrors of child rape by focusing on the terror and harm caused by Dash's actions. Stockholm and its scenes involving minors are meant to be sexually gratifying. That is Stockholm's purpose, as designed by Lily. Which, as you can probably imagine, created a number of problems for Lily as she began rebranding herself as the saviour of child victims of abuse. Because reminder, that is why we are here. That is how she's gone on to present herself, which is fucking dangerous, considering Lily's true nature. Suffice to say, in the years leading up to her work on Toon Critic and the deluge of pedophilia content in the pony community in general, Lily began downplaying her part in Stockholm, even deleting certain pieces as early as August of 2015. Though she wasn't entirely done with the series, as seen in this Q&A between Ali the Alicorn and Lily, with Ali asking Lily questions about her work and then reblogging Lily's answers, which mentioned Stockholm on the 29th of December 2016. Lily also talked openly about rewriting Stockholm as late as May of 2016, so the history surrounding said series clearly wasn't a complete deterrent. However, the original fanfics would re-emerge during the Lily-Josh schism of 2018, with Josh calling upon Stockholm as a means of...
Oh, jeez. Like, Ethel, this is like way too much like Lily Orchard lore. Like, I think you might have an obsession. Like when you list out like little bits of like Lily Orchard drama, like they're like gospel, like, oh yeah, the famous Lily Josh schism of 2018. Like, which Josh are we even talking about? Like Bo Blacks? Lily Orchard and Bo Blacks have like a schism. We have like the Orthodox Church, and then we have like the Bo Blacks Church or whatever. No, I don't like what the hell is all this? Like, I'm sure all this is explained in some other Essence of Thought video, right? But like, me sitting through one is already like painful enough.
Of attacking Lily. This is what became the tipping point, with Lily now flat out denying the existence of said piece, as seen in her response to Josh's accusations.
But the reality is that this will most definitely be fought, especially since Josh has actually tried to defame me numerous times, going as far as to distribute child pornography on Twitter.
Fiery Joker, Josh Scorcher. right, which is the Josh in question.
From likely any random story off fanfiction and claiming Lily made that, trust me.
Suffice to say, Lily and her supporters have attempted to make a number of excuses for Stockholm over the years, with said arguments falling into 3 general categories, which are 1. Lily Orchard wrote Stockholm as is, and it was her co-author, Nintendo Gal55, who pressured Lily to include sections sexualizing minors. 2. Lily Orchard wrote a version of Stockholm lacking the sections sexualizing minors, with said sections being added later.
Honestly, if either 1 or 2 of these are true, like, that's already, like, you've committed unforgivable crimes against fiction, because, like, even if we take the stuff with the minors out, believe you me, the story is fucked up enough on its own. Like, oh, sweet child of summer, we'll discover.
By her critics. 3. Lily Orchard didn't write Stockholm. I tend to find that Lily fans who have been with her longer are more likely to make the first 2 arguments, whilst newer fans are more likely to make the third. This is likely the result of Lily going all out on the idea that she never wrote Stockholm in recent years, something that's just accepted as gospel by her newer audience members. So with that laid out, I'd just like to go through these one by one in reverse order, starting of course with the argument that Lily didn't write Stockholm, period. Now, we've already seen some evidence that this is false.
By the way, get ready for some really insane, like, internet detective, like, fruit farms level, like, no, matching hash codes and all of that, like,
In the post reblogged by Ali the
This gets
Alicorn,
nuts.
and indeed, if you search her page for Stockholm, you find a wealth of other examples confirming that yes, Lily did indeed write Stockholm. Yet this is by no means the only evidence that exists, as can be seen in this clip taken from Lily's 2014 Halloween Glass of Water special, The Grandmother of Grimdark.
When I started this series, I had every intention on doing something special for Halloween, and nothing could be better than taking a truly bizarre and messed up fanfic and picking through it like an amphetamine-fueled chimp.
wait, that's Lily's voice? Like, I'm not trying to, voice gatekeeper or anything like that. It just surprised me, like, I guess I don't watch enough Lily Orchard videos. And so when it's like, whoa, radical, it's like just voice that just kind of surprises me is all. Not that there's anything wrong with that voice. Just not the voice I picture in my head, especially reading
Which
the story.
one? There's so many. Fallout Equestria? That's too long. Fall of Equestria? No. Equestrian Pony Meat Business? I think I'll break my rating limits. Can't do Stockholm, I wrote that one. But then I thought, what about that one, Jerry? The one that started this whole trend of grimdark fanfiction. Can't do Stockholm, I wrote that one. Can't do Stockholm, I wrote that one. Can't do Stockholm, I wrote that one.
We then have Lily's Glass of Water episode, Mummy Daggio equals Alicorns, which originally aired on the 24th of May, 2015, during which Lily boasts about her ability to write characters whilst displaying images of both Stockholm the Razzle Dazzle and Stockholm the Dash family on screen, at 2 separate points in the video.
As a writer of both original fiction and fanfiction, I have a habit of always using OCs. I created a character that ended up being paired with Twilight, still wasn't called a Mary Sue. There's an alternate version of her that's a bigger boobie than Fluttershy, still wasn't called a Mary Sue.
So we can say with
I'll
confidence that
call her
Lily
Sensual
Orchard
Mary
wrote
Sue.
Stockholm, a fact that makes her new argument in her 2022 Accusations Master post seem all the more desperate. For you see, in spite of us playing what I just showed you in the Mackenzie video, which was published on the 15th of October, Lily still went on to deny that she ever wrote Stockholm in her Accusations Master post, published on the 27th of October. She just did so in a more roundabout manner than straight up denying any involvement, asserting, "This references an old fanfic called Scars that skewered and condemned the brony fandom's romanticizing of abuse and their excusing of pedophilia. Was hosted on G Drive, and then angry bronies edited it to have underage sex scenes into it and reposted it to their sites under the name Stockholm, using the same tactics they developed harassing a teenage girl for not liking their Rapist Celestia comic. Scars was written in 2012, discussed."
I'm gonna be honest, I feel like if you have to have, like, this whole, like, FAQ master post of, like, really disgusting claims against you, like, each one of these, if you go through it, no, you might just have a problem in general. Like, even if half of that stuff isn't true and the other half is, you are still a fucking terrible person. Allegedly. Like, even one of these in the list was true about Lily Orchard, is true about Lily Orchard, Lily Orchard is an absolute monster and piece of shit. Like, I'm looking at these other ones. Lily encouraged a friend to groom a minor. Lily groomed a minor. Lily is a zoophile. Like, honestly, the road pedofic one is probably the least bad here, but that's sort of like saying that, premeditated murder is less bad than genocide. Like, at the end of the day, they're both things you get the death penalty for, right? They're both, like, really fucked up, but...
Started and disowned in 2014 and rebooted in 2018 to be an original story about trauma. Except, as we've all just heard, Lily specifically refers to Stockholm as Stockholm, doing so as late as November of 2016, by which point this hate campaign had apparently been running for 2 years. So the fact that Lily would continue to make this argument, in spite of it having already been thoroughly debunked by this point, really goes to show both her desperation and just how little she thinks of her audience. And if you're a fan of Lily's and you're watching this, surely a part of you has to be insulted at just how much of a sucker Lily is.
Well, I have to hold on because Ethel gets into it with the receipts, like on, like, the ID numbers and such, and I feel like we have, like, the authorship of Stockholm pretty dead to rights to Lily Orchard at this point in time. I'm still going with the, like, allegedly in the descriptions and titles and such, just to kind of cover my ass. Like, in case her fans want to hate mob me or something, but, like, come on. Are we going to really say that, like, Ballspawn and Lily Orchard are different people?
Is attempting to take you for. To
sure
assume
I
that you'll
wanna
never
play that
check things for
game.
yourself, that you'll just shut up and listen to her without question. I'll be fucking pissed if someone like Lily treated me like that. But I guess that requires a person to have self-respect. So I guess the question is, do you have self-respect? Moving on to Lily's argument that Stockholm has been edited by her critics, it's easy to respond to this by pointing out that the Stockholm series archived on FimFetch, which is kind of like archive.com but for FimFiction, is archived under Lily's name. However,
so you can't just drop these things. Like, so Fim Fiction is friendship is magic. So, like, Gen 3 My Little Pony, is it? No, or Gen 4 My Little Pony. The Friendship is Magic series. This is like whole repository of fan fiction for that particular set of ponies.
it's just as easy for Lily to assert that said account was fake. Therefore, we need to verify the integrity of these fanfics, and to do that, we turn to Lily's FimFiction account. Though first, a little history lesson. Lily has gone by many usernames over the past decade. Barspawn, Deadname Pete, and Lily Pete among them. These names can be verified by going to any of Lily's videos, copying the URL, and pasting it into a tag extractor, since Lily herself continues to use said names in her tags. This is important since Lily's FimFiction has existed under all three names at different points in time. Now, how can I say for certain that these accounts are all hers? Well, thankfully FimFiction has a 2-tier ID system, meaning that besides usernames, which the user can change at any time, each account comes with a unique user ID, which can't be changed. What's more is, the stories page on FimFiction uses this unique user ID to keep track of the user's stories. This means that, were I to, say, find a link to Barspawn's official FimFiction account on Lily's 2012 MLP fan label wiki page, long before she'd met any of her so-called stalkers, I could simply plug that into archive.com, open up the older save, and then click the Stories tab to see that Lily's user ID on FimFiction is 3624. This then acts as a tether, allowing us to click the Stories tab at any point throughout the account's history to verify that what we're looking at is indeed her account.
Yeah. Basically, bunch of internet detective bullshit. But what actually just means is that there's account number attached to each of these stories, even though they're by like different author names, but they're all the same number, which means it was the same account that made these stories.
624 is effectively Lily's fanfiction fingerprint, unique to her, impossible to fake, and thus offering a strong degree of credibility. All three accounts check out, linking back to user ID 3624. With that established, the Stockholm series, as shown on FinFetch, would have been posted sometime during Lily's dead name period, and indeed, we can see Stockholm being presented as her cream of the crop around this time. Sadly, there's no archive copy of Lily's stories page from this period, and even if there were, I doubt they show up, since in order to see mature content on FinFiction, you need to enable it via your personal settings, something archive.com sadly doesn't allow. But then I remembered something I noticed whilst browsing Lily's abandoned account. You see, FinFiction has these things called bookshelves, which are effectively its equivalent of YouTube's playlists that can be found on the user's library page. And it was on said page that I noticed that, whilst Lily was very quick to delete her Stockholm fanfics, one thing she forgot to do was delete her Stockholm bookshelf. What this means is, whilst empty, it remains a visual reminder of what was once there, something that made me chuckle at the time. But this got me thinking.
I'm just gonna say this feels like kind of obsessive once you're getting to this level of work to try and track somebody. Like, I can just say, no, I don't really care whether it actually is or not. I'm kind of running on the assumption that it is, and then just saying allegedly, and that's good enough for me. Like, I feel like if you're trying to do this much work to track Lily Orchard lore, you're kind of a bit lost in the sauce, personally.
Is it possible that someone captured an archive copy of said bookshelf? Well, sure enough, there it was, providing a partial list with links leading to individual pages of said fanfics. Sadly, the links themselves don't work when you click them. Instead, you get taken to this error page, though I was able to figure out why rather quickly. For some reason, the spaces on either side of the hyphen found between Stockholm and the rest of the fanfic's title were replaced with additional hyphens, meaning that if we remove the two additional hyphens before pressing enter, the links now work as they should. However, since we've now edited the URL, we need to click the Stories tab just to make sure we're still on the same account. Yup, still user ID 3624, Lily Orchard. And you can check this for yourself using the instructions I'm giving you. Don't take my word on it any more than you should take Lily's.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
That's why we reference everything we put out, so you can check these things for yourself. Though it's here we run into another problem, in that the original Stockholm isn't listed at the time the snapshot was taken, because no, the Dash family isn't the first Stockholm, meaning we have no link. Thankfully, each fanfic on FinFiction has a unique content ID number in its URL. .com and wouldn't
blah,
recap
blah, blah.
at the big...
Basically, you get the idea. Now, the other one is debunking the fact that the co-author was pressured her into it. There's stuff about, like, Lil Ballspawn, like, bragging about pressuring Nintendo Gal 55 into adding the more sordid elements to the story. We got background. We got a Swedish IKEA, northernmost IKEA in the world. No, gotta go full Stockholm for this. So right off the bat, we're gonna begin. We have like 23 chapters. I'm just gonna do the first 2 today, and then next time I'll probably do chapter 3, 4, and 5. And hopefully we can get through this without too much wasted time, too much panicking. This is just kind of light, fun thing. Mess around, try out doing some different content, doing some Let's Read about a honestly really fucked up creator and a really fucked up story. So, this is Stockholm. Oh yeah, I should bring out my ponies. Bring out the ponies. It's Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash. They're going to be very important in the story. Oh, aren't they? Um, Chapter 1 of Stockholm. The real estate agent of poker. Ugh. So guys, do you think the Swedes appreciate that their capital and largest city gets associated with abusive sex weirdos? Like, I want to say my intuition would just tell me no. Like, if you were to go and do like a study, ask Swedes on the street, what do you think? Come on. We don't need to even go for that. Also, like the real estate agent of poker is a chapter title for the first chapter. That is really, really stupid chapter title, I'll be honest. We later find out the reason that's called that in the chapter, and it is also really stupid. The stupid chapter title aside, the first chapter, the deplorable piece of dreck that we have here, isn't actually all that bad, really. No, all things considered, like, no, just like the stuff Ethel was going over. This chapter is still weirdly horny, but that's pretty standard for a lot of these kinds of erotic fan fiction. While I personally find the idea of using characters and concepts from a cartoon made for children for sexually repressed teenagers and adults who are mentally teenagers to write out their sexual fantasies with pretty gross, honestly. I don't want to linger on that point too long. Like, I could just go off like an entire rant on the state of erotic fan fiction and why it's not all that healthy of a thing to do, and why it's like weird shit going on in the headspace of the authors who are writing it at the time. But like, it's enough just to try and take down this one because it is weird. Okay. Anyway, chapter 1, we begin with a descriptive text of the area of the place they're in. I'm going to bring up this so we get some poker. Going to get a lot of ponies playing poker in this one. And then I actually have voice read out the text, and it might be one that you find familiar. We'll see.
Burning flames within the fireplace kept a portion of the cabin lit. The warmth circulated while the shadows danced on the walls. Beyond the windows, diamond-sized snowflakes fell in a steady stream, following an occasional howl of the wind. Within the cabin itself was a soft silence, at least for the time being.
Cool. Inside this cozy cabin we're given in the winter landscape there, we have ponies playing poker. Like, this isn't a joke. This is what the chapter is about. The chapter title's not a metaphor of any kind. Most of this chapter is going to be about poker. So, strap in.
The timid woman queried, flapping her cards lightly for emphasis. Rainbow looked flatly over her cards before bending her hand toward her chest, looking at her friend, throwing 2 bits into the center. Yeah, I'm in. Placing 2 bits as well, Fluttershy laid down her hand. 3 of a kind jacks. Full house, Rainbow smirked, laying her cards down to show 3 5s and 2 kings. Got me again! Fluttershy giggled, gathering the cards to shuffle them. You sure are on a lucky streak tonight, Dashy. What can I say, Shy? Poker's my game, Rainbow smirked, leaning back and crossing her arms behind her head. That is, before she remembered she wasn't sitting against anything and fell flat over onto the floor.
Fell flat over the floor. What can you do? I'll spare you more of that for the sake of sanity, because it just keeps going on this way. Like, honestly, these poker game descriptions, it's some of the most boring stuff I've ever read, and I've read some boring stuff. Like, it's just mostly descriptions of them drawing cards, and then they play the cards. And the whole time we're expected to know the rules of poker, what the different card combinations mean, and know which one beats which one, to be able to follow any of the story. Honestly, it's really like hearing some old boomer like giving a play-by-play description of last night's poker game with the boys, or like at least like television poker and such, right? Like grandmasters and such. Like we get to see their faces. There's a lot of other things going on to it. This is just like, oh, they draw a card and play the card. And there isn't even like good sense of tension of like a sporting or gameplay, because like the cards are just the tricks that they're having are just chosen by the author for a dramatic effect. So it's completely uninteresting that way. Not only that, it's probably worse than that. Worse than it sounds that way, because it's only a 2-player poker game, which like isn't poker. That's just like you trading chips. Like, what the fuck? Also, I should probably mention our 2 card playing ponies are Rainbow Dash and Rainbow Dash. There, and Fluttershy here. Both Pegasaurus. They're both Pegasauruses. Dash is like tomboy jock type, from what I understand, and Fluttershy is, well, shy. We get some cringe dialogue between them.
Yeah, I'm all right, Rainbow said, sitting up and propping her elbows onto the table. You're not hurt? Just my pride. Fluttershy gave her a sad smile. I'm the only one here. What difference does that make? Rainbow asked.
Remember when I said this chapter isn't that bad compared to the rest of the story? It's probably partly because it's mostly really boring. Like, boring. Ugh. Like, I'm skipping through a lot of this, but just paragraph after paragraph of them playing through their poker game. It's very dryly described to us. Anyway, Fluttershy is actually losing really badly. And because this story, throughout its entire run, is irredeemably horny, we get an offhand comment from her about how she is glad that she isn't playing strip poker. Geez, I wonder if that's going to have any payoff later. Continue on.
Fluttershy laid down her cards. 4 of a kind aces. Rainbow's eyes bugged out of her head and her mouth hung open. It was perhaps the most cliched hand in TV shows that made fun of poker, but she'd never seen someone get it in real life. Lowering her cards face down, she just sighed. Wow, you got me.
Even though Fluttershy is sucks at poker, she gets the most cliched hand, which of course happens here because it's a story reminds me. I'm a fan of Connor Listoka and Mike Nelson of Mystery Science Theater 3000 fame. They do a podcast called 538 Pages We'll Never Get Back, and one of the things they like to discuss is what they call the Mr. Woodcock phenomenon, going back to Billy Bob Thornton comedy where he's a gym teacher, whatever, called that. And it's like, make all these jokes about the name, but it's like, it's not really funny because you just made up a name and gave it to the character. Like, and this has that kind of energy to me. Like, of course she gets 4 aces because you wrote it into the story. Like, I'd be impressed if you actually played an actual poker game on a table and wrote down the results. Like, that would have more tension, be more interesting as far as gameplay. But you're just giving him like insane hands, and like, geez, I guess that happened. But that's this fanfic. I just you guys wait till we get to the psychic radio, and I think it's chapter 3, so it'll probably be next time. But that is really like top tier Mr. Woodcock. It's insane.
Shuffling and dealing the cards once more, Fluttershy stretched her limbs and then looked over her hand. This time she had 2 queens and 2 fours. Rainbow, on the other hand, was holding another full house. I'm like the real estate agent of poker, she thought as she threw 2 bits into the pile.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. We'll get to that. I did tell you the reason behind the chapter title. Extremely, extremely stupid. I should mention that's like the 3rd full house that Rainbow Dash has gotten in this chapter. I'm not sure what the odds of that are, but I'm guessing sort of like the 4 aces hand, this isn't something that much happens in real life, only in fiction land. So Rainbow Dash suddenly decides that their cozy winter cabin is a little too warm and cozy. She does the rom-com cliche thing of taking off her sweater in like the sexiest way possible. Now, Fluttershy being Fluttershy is very embarrassed. That's where we get the oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Rainbow said, holding her cards up to her face to hide her blush. Fluttershy always wore a white tank top underneath her sweater which hugged her body. When the girl had lifted her sweater off, Rainbow could make out every curve of her torso and her assets.
And her assets. Oh god. The story's like mind poison. So Rainbow Dash gets nervous, also suggesting that she would enjoy strip poker with Fluttershy.
Fluttershy asked, momentarily wondering why she of all people was asking that. We're both girls here. Rainbow turned her head a little, shy. She mumbled something under her breath as her face reddened further. Concern washed over her as Fluttershy reached over to touch her hand. You what? You know you can tell me anything, Dashy. What's bothering you? Nothing's bothering me, I just... Rainbow bit her lip like, women. Ooh, Fluttershy let that process for a few moments, then smiled warmly. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I admittedly didn't quite expect that. But that's okay. So you like women, that's fine. I'm sorry I teased you, though. Too, you wasn't. I didn't know. She looked down a bit with embarrassment.
If you hadn't already guessed, this is going to lead to strip poker, which then is going to lead to lesbian sex. You'd have guessed correctly, but we're going to get there as the story gets there. Like, no rushing it. We don't have to come too early, as the ponies would say. Like, honestly, okay, there is plenty enough for sex in this story, like more than you can shake a Vosh at. Like, Vosh would be so pleased by this fan fiction.
Look at me, Shy. Rainbow laughed a little. I'm redder than the Apple family's best crops.
Hey, what if the Apple family's best crops happen to be their green Granny Smith apples? Those are like the polar opposite of red in the color spectrum.
You have a really... Rainbow blushed deeper. Cute butt.
And there we have it, a quote for the thumbnail. I got nothing much to say about that. I just think it's really dumb, really funny, really out of nowhere. Moving on.
Oh, you don't mind that I'm attracted to you? She asked, reaching over for a hug. Fluttershy smiled and reached over to hug her. Of course not, Dashy. You can't help who you're attracted to, and I trust you very much. If anything, I'm really flattered you find me so attractive. It's sweet. Well, if I can be honest, I think you're attractive too. Yeah, but you're not gay, Shy. Rainbow laughed, squeezing her midsection tightly. What difference does that make? I still have eyes. I think you're cute. Fluttershy nuzzled her affectionately. Come on. You're really pretty and your rainbow hair is a unique feature. I don't have to like women to find them attractive, silly. Everything okay?
Whoop. Skipping ahead. Fluttershy. Tell me you like women without telling me you like women. I also really don't like the implications that Fluttershy was straight and that Rainbow Dash, turned her gay, cured her of her straightness through her irresistible sex appeal. That's weird enough when it's straight characters doing that to gay characters, and now we're having the gay characters turning other characters gay. That's kind of the impression I get, and it's weird. It's really not made better by the fact that we find out later in the story that she's in a steady relationship with a guy, and he's actually got plans on marrying her. Rainbow says that it's okay to be gay. The place they live is super accepting of it and all that jazz. She then proceeds to list out random characters that came out queer and were accepted.
Hand on her shoulder.
Oh. I don't have the reading out. I'll have to read this one out manually by myself. Oh, I'm not worried about that, Rainbow smiled, sitting up in the chair. Look at Lyra Heartstrings. She's openly gay. Same with that donut guy in Canterlot. Hell, look at Pound Cake and Pumpkin Cake. They're siblings, and they were welcomed pretty well when they started telling people they were a thing. And here we go. The moment I was waiting for, the moment of truth. We get first of our things here. There we go. Red. And in fact, add an image, because we're going to need a lot of these. So prepared. Yeah. Give a quick shout out to Alfredo Hernandez, who designed this picture. We have a red flag. Now, I have these marked. Now, every time we get something in the story that is super sussy or just super fucked up, this goes up. Like this one. The fact that the incest siblings, Pound Cake and Pumpkin Cake, are well accepted in this pony hellscape of land is already pretty red flag worthy in my opinion, but it's actually worse than that, okay? Here, let me pull up, because I have an image of those characters. That's Pound Cake and Pumpkin Cake. Notice anything weird here? You should. because they're fucking babies, okay? The writer of the story, Lily Orchard, Lily Pete, Ballspawn, literally took characters that are canonically babies in the My Little Pony universe and turned them into incest siblings. Like, I hope you're as disgusted as I am by this, because that is, like, so fucked up. I will be good faith, okay? I'll be fair to the story. This is supposed to take place in the future, so I'm pretty sure they're aged up to, like, teenagers or adolescents or something. I guess it's better. It's still not good. They're still, like, under age of consent and such, so that's still super not cool. Definitely needs a red flag. Um, let's see, that's the VLC. So prepared. So we need a little bit of stream scuff. That needs to stay up there. Maybe if I get rid of that. Still not saying it. Okay. Oh, that works. Black text, that's better. Can we make it a little smaller? There we go. We got the red flag counter now. Cool.
Are you kidding? At least something would be happening. Fluttershy shook her head. No, that's the problem. Nothing is happening. Rainbow. You know me, right? You know I'm a much more slow-paced, relaxed, tentative kind of woman. You know I like the simple, quiet things. Well, this is not that. I'm bored. We do the same thing date after date. Sometimes I go over, sometimes he comes over. We sit around the room and do our own tasks. Sometimes we go to dinner. Sometimes we just watch a movie. We don't even really speak very much. I used to love that, the fact that I didn't have to be all outgoing and talkative with him. But now I feel like we're in a rut. No, I feel like we're in a rut, but in the rut of the rut. If that makes sense? You'd at least think the rutting would be good if it was that stale, Rainbow said, snickering. I'm funny.
Oh, get used to the terrible jokes. It referred to this as having, like, no like, cheesy 90s sitcom humor in it. And it is so bad. So what's going on? What they're talking about there is Fluttershy is with a horse named Big Mac. He wants her to move in with him, but their relationship is fairly loveless, fairly tepid. I'll be honest, like that whole, like, rut of the rut, think the rutting would be good, like, that's like black hole of comedy right there. Like, you can't get a lot worse. It's like one of the least funny things I've ever seen put to paper, like, as an intentional joke. Honestly, I also don't like that the first time, like, sex gets mentioned in the story, it's referred to as rutting. Like, that just comes across as, like, very impersonal and dehumanizing to me. Like, you're talking about breeding livestock, which I guess makes sense given that they're ponies, right? We're talking about crazy pony sex, but yeah. Also want to point out that fact that Fluttershy wishes that there was something wrong between the two of them instead of nothing. That's very hopelessly naive and not a good precedent to set at all. Like, it's not red flag worthy, but it is concerning. So we get a bunch more venting from Fluttershy about how much her love life sucks while making doe eyes at Rainbow Dash the entire time. Rainbow Dash decides that she can finally tell Fluttershy her deepest, darkest secret. And by tell, I mean show. There's no real good way to sugarcoat it. Come on.
In her hand, she lowered it. Reaching into her loosened shorts, she pulled the front of them down and pulled out her secret. Fluttershy's eye twitched when she saw it. A penis, standing fully erect from her shorts.
Yeah, here it is. I couldn't skip that one. Like, first time I read this, I was actually having it read out to me in that voice. Like, I hit across it and I'm like, oh, this is gold. Like, I gotta cover this because that's just, like, bad fanfic heaven. That's so insane. So deranged. Honestly, I'm not sure that Fluttershy consented to getting flashed full frontal like that either. But going forward in the story, you're going to just have to expect like a lot of nudity, pony rutting going on. I try and cut out most of the sex scenes and some of the grosser stuff, but there's some of this I still need to summarize what's going on in this story. And like the things that are really concerning and such that like red flag worthy, I'm going to have to cover to some degree. So, like, this is erotic fanfic. It's not my fault that's not very sexy, but we're gonna get a lot of this stuff, okay? Fluttershy sees Rainbow Dash's member and instantly thinks hermaphrodite. But that would be wrong. She's corrected by Rainbow Dash. Like, I think Ethel said, like, intersex. Like, I'm not really clear on what defines this. Like, Rainbow is, like, basically, like, male to female transgender pony. But the terminology or even, like, concept of gender transition doesn't seem to exist in, like, this My Little Pony universe at all. Like, I hate to even have to think about that, honestly. Like, we're defining Rainbow Dash as a girl pony that just happened to be born with boy parts. Like, I don't know how that works. Like, I feel like it should be the other way around, if anything. Like, no. Like, there's young men who get breast development. Like, I should know. I used to be one of them. So, like, I don't even know. Also, like, it's no real big secret, like, I'm trans woman myself. I'm gonna try not to be, like, super transphobic with my humor on this, but it's just gonna come out because I am just the way I am, okay? And, like, this weird mutant pony Pegasus woman with a dick, like, it's just too easy to make fun of. So we gotta keep moving on. I can't linger on that. It is mind breaking me. but we got so much more to cover. It gets so weird.
Standing up, Fluttershy crossed over and gave her a hug, barely realizing she was sandwiching the shaft between them. I'm
Sandwiching
glad
the
you told me.
shaft.
You're my best friend, and I love you. I'm always going to be your friend. And no piece of genitalia will change that. Rainbow shuddered and tried to push Fluttershy off her. Shy, you have to get oof. Why am I? Oh, sorry. Fluttershy pulled away. Did that hurt you? I know that bending them a certain way can be painful. No, it didn't hurt, Rainbow breathed. It's just if you didn't get oof. I was going TTO.
God damn it, she's a guy pony, and she can't help herself. There we go. You got fair warning. Anyway, I guess having the penis gives her, like, stereotypical, like, male sex drive, like, just being, like, super horny all the time. Like, no. Sees naked woman must have sex. Like, it's really annoying. And, like, I'll tell you this, okay? Any of you who are not in the know, it works like the exact opposite of that. Like if you got, like, the female hormones and such, like, you have, like, exact opposite effect. It's like, it's not even that you don't get horny, but it's how to explain this is just weird. Like, yeah, I certainly think about sex way less, like, post-transition than pre. Like, doesn't mean I don't get turned on when I get turned on, but, like, I certainly don't care as much for, like, pornography or any of that shit now. I'll tell you that. I will point out in this story, Fluttershy is also behaving really weird, being so quick to hug up close to the penis there, despite just finding out about, like, girl, no, don't touch it, icky, no, yuck, do not do this thing. And then being like, oh, bending it. It reminds me of a thing about, like, the daggering, the, like, Jamaican dance trend where guys, like, jump on their groin there and, like is doing, like, simulated sex. And, like, Jamaican guys were, like, trying that with, like, actual sex and, like, breaking their dicks. Like, this was, like, a real thing. Like, they were having, like, an epidemic of broken penises in Jamaica as that dance trend took off. Really insane shit.
Biting her lip, Fluttershy considered the options, shaking a bit. Already her curiosity was getting the better of her, but she didn't want to push it either. Taking a breath, she decided to start slow. Your socks. For now.
We're back to the cards. Did I miss one again? So they're gonna play their strip poker. The cat's out of the bag on that. Rainbow Dash finally decides to zip her damn fly back up, which proceed to the strip poker game that was teased at earlier. I skipped past most of this because it's honestly more the same thing. Like, it's the poker, but now they take off clothing. It's so boring.
Her warm toes from their prison. All right, deal again.
I did want to highlight this one about the socks, though, because this is, like, really bizarre to me, okay? I just want to talk about, like, ponies having socks. Like, here, this is Rainbow Dash. I'll make her giant. Notice something about Rainbow Dash. Notice the feet. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, right? But horses have hooves. The idea of, like, them, like, wearing socks over the hooves, that seems, like, really bizarre to me. And it's just the point where, like, I realized that we're not the babies. We're not dealing with, like, regular ponies. Oh no, we're dealing with something I honestly think kind of more cursed in some ways, but pull that. We're dealing with Equestria girls. There we go. Like, I would say all their, like, anthropomorphized versions of the pony characters. Except for they don't really, like, have any pony characteristics left at all. So it's not really like they're furries. It's more like they're colorful humans. No cosplaying as the ponies, if anything. Like, I'll be honest, like, part of me is glad that we won't be getting, like, lots of bestiality in this story, at least. So at least we have that. Which, for all I know, could be why our author, Miss Pete, went with Equestria girls rather than ponies for this one. I don't know. I just feel like it's a salient point to try and conjure the correct images of the characters going forward. They are always referred to as being ponies in this story, despite their, like, utterly human anatomy that the Equestria girls have. And they wear human clothing throughout all of this, and it just drives me insane. So the strip poker plot just keeps plodding along. Like, you guys have no idea how many paragraphs of this shit I'm skipping. Fluttershy loses her pants, then their shirt. Rainbow loses her shirt. Then, eventually, they are both naked. There's a bit where they compare their breast sizes. We find out that Fluttershy is the most well-endowed of the ponies. Like, we really needed to know that. We get an amazingly cringy alliteration, though, where it talks about Fluttershy's generous memory mounds. Generous memory mounds. Like, it's just... There's not much I can say about that. It just speaks for itself. Honestly, it's like almost like Fluttershy has some sort of tumor that should be looked at, rather than, like, something sexy when I hear that. Rainbow Dash ends up popping a very important question.
Shy. Do you want me? Rainbow asked, shaking nervously. The question was so final, but it was all she could go on. Fluttershy looked all around the room, then at her friend. The uncomfortable but undeniable tingles of her pleasure running through her. As confused as she felt, all she knew was that she wanted this more than ever expected. Taking a few deep breaths, meeting Rainbow's eyes, she nodded. Yes, I do.
Oh, so sweet. Anyway, we get some overly aggressive kissing with adjectives like violently and sudden. It's always great to be seeing. No, honestly, I'm going to be skipping a lot of the erotic portions for this Let's Read. But they aren't really that bad for this type of amateur writing. Like, I've read way, way worse. Like, this is definitely not D.H. Lawrence, but it's also not something like as laughably terrible as my inner life. Unfortunately, that means I can't even really like quote chunks of the sex things just to laugh at them for how bad they are. The most are just kind of there and dry and like a little uncanny, to be honest. Like they don't do it for me, but that could just be me too.
You want to see Cuddle? Rainbow asked. Flutirshi nodded. Yes, EDDO. Rainbow blushed. That sounds wonderful. Let's go.
I'm honestly not sure what pony Fluttershy is, but anyway, no. We get teased a bit. We don't get any sex in this chapter at all. They just cuddle. However, we get this.
Good night, Dashi, Fluttershy whispered, smiling all the more as she relaxed in their warm embrace. Oh, look at the little cheating bitch. You almost make breaking someone's heart look cute, Flutters.
That's ominous. Like Rainbow Dash just goes full on psycho there. That's the last sentence of chapter 1. That we close off the chapter. Go on to chapter 2, which is, what did I say about Sattershy? Now, I actually had to look this up because I was trying to figure out if Sattershy is like something from like the actual series. Like, I'm not that deep into like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic lore, honestly. And I think it's like a fandom thing to call Fluttershy this whenever she is sad, but I'm really not certain. Is the poker? One of the things I did find is an emoji that was called Sattershy. I'll show it to you. Just a second. Emote Sattershy. Oh, that's somewhat yeah, that's pretty horrifying. That's just gonna follow us around this chapter. Honestly, that image could just, like, that sums up like this entire fanfic. Honestly. I'll just put that over at the Swedish IKEA there. So there's something like My Little Pony forum called the Round Stable, and if you type in Sattershy there, you get this. And for all I know, that could be where Lily got the idea from. I looked into it, couldn't find much at all. Anyway, yeah, this emote's going to be really, really fitting for this chapter with some of the horrible sights we are about to wander into because, oh boy, just going through this one, and this chapter's a doozy.
Despite her body being roused from its once peaceful slumber, Fluttershy smiled as she felt immense warmth and comfort. Someone was in bed with her, holding her close, and it felt wonderful. It just barely registered in her mind that the person was far smaller than Big Macintosh, as well as much softer. Whoever it was, Fluttershy didn't even mind. If it felt this good, she was all too willing to partake.
I mean, couldn't be Rainbow Dash, could it? I honestly really hate this cliche. Like, we already know they slept together. Like, in my own life, I've literally never had this problem myself. Yet, it seems to appear all the time in fiction. Fluttershy eventually figures it out. They both arouse, by which I mean they arise, or I guess in Rainbow Dash's case, it is a rouse. Oh.
Threw open the cover, showing her throbbing erection. That's not morning wood, Shy. She chuckled, standing up and wincing again. If you're ever considering a sex change, I wouldn't recommend it.
Like, what the fuck? Honestly. What the fuck did I just listen to? Like, Rainbow Dash, listen up here. You're the only intersex pony here. If anybody would be considering surgery, it ought to be you, not Fluttershy. Like, I don't even know what this comment is supposed to mean. Literally comes out of nowhere. It never gets referenced again. It never goes anywhere. And if any of you weirdos listening to this are going to expect that, like, a Fluttershy with extra bits is going to, like, show up later in the story, don't get your hopes up, because that's never happening. So I don't know what the point of any of that is. They go on, they discuss the being friends with benefits for a while. Rainbow Dash reminds Fluttershy that she still has a boyfriend, and that he doesn't know. Fluttershy replies that he doesn't need to know. He just needs to No. They just need to keep it secret. And wouldn't you know it, like a certain someone just walks right up to the door at the time. Who could it be?
Hey, Shy. I'm just bringing you more fire, Shy. Big Mac stopped when he saw his girlfriend lying half covered in her bed. Shy never slept naked. She preferred full pajamas. Shy, what's going on? Nothing. Why do you ask? Fluttershy asked, smiling sheepishly. You're naked and it's 5 degrees in here, Mac said with a smirk, setting the firewood down. That's kind of odd behavior. I was just going to take a shower, Fluttershy fibbed. Big Mac stepped over and sat down next to her in her bed, stroking her hair. Well, why don't we postpone your shower for a little while, he said softly, kissing her forehead.
Speak the name of the horse and he shall appear. Meanwhile, Rainbow Dash is hiding in the bathroom, doing her best R. Kelly trapped in the closet impression. And Big Mac's just like, I know you're all acting all sus and freezing your butt off, but that really turns me on. You're also stinking to high heavens because you haven't taken a shower yet, but that doesn't bother me. Now, I picture Big Mac in this as like some sort of like a manly man lumberjack type. I actually have an image prepared. We have the brawny paper towel man. Brawny paper towel man. And oh, he's huge. Well, I guess I did say he was big. Yeah. Oh, this isn't working. Yeah, why is he so big? I guess I should format these before I put them on here. This dude. Sorry, he's poorly optimized for this. I'll put him over here. Let's just keep collecting stuff as we go on this chapter. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh. No, he can't be on top of the video, though.
In her gut. I had no idea he'd be doing this. Hey, don't feel sorry for me, Rainbow laughed. I'm getting a free show through this keyhole.
Rainbow Dash, like, getting the free show through the keyhole. Like, Rainbow Dash is just sitting there in her cuck chair, and she's enjoying it, like, every moment of it. Like, fucking come on. Bizarrely, after that, we get Rainbow Dash calling Fluttershy a nymphette, which she then objects to. And then she promises that a morning of exhibitionism awaits Fluttershy, and Fluttershy, instead of being pissed off or at the very least like immensely turned off with this, goes along so that Brawny Paper Towel Man won't notice anything suspicious. Right.
Big Mac pulled Fluttershy against him, kissing her neck. My, you were certainly cute this morning. Fluttershy managed a little smile. Well, I had a very good sleep last night.
Again, he apparently finds his lover freezing to death very adorable. I kind of suspect this guy would probably get aroused watching reruns of Naked and Afraid as well.
Rainbow go anyway. I thought you were staying here with her?
Oops, looks like the gig is up. Well, no. Luckily, Big Mac seems to be the dumb muscle type of dude, and he isn't able to put 2 and 2 together to equal 4 if his life depended on it. I kind of bet that he'd probably be the type to fly into a violent rage if he discovered Fluttershy cheating on him anyway, so it's probably lucky about that. Anyway, Mac all of a sudden realizes that he is supposed to go to work like a normal adult and promptly leaves mid-coitus. At least, I think that's what happens. The poor writing makes it really unclear. Like, I'm literally not skipping any details in this scene, really. It's just like we had like a fade to black moment, but the author neglected to inform us in any way, like indicated in any way. Either way, Fluttershy here acts like she went through a really boring ordeal that she describes as being the same as making a grocery list. Fluttershy, I mean Rainbow Dash. So Rainbow Dash being a Mary Sue, main character, Lily Orchard's obvious self-insert here, puts Fluttershy in her place, lets her know whose emotions are really, actually important in this moment.
Sorry, Shy, let me put it from my perspective, Rainbow said with a flat look on her face. Drop-dead gorgeous girl, bare-ass naked, getting plowed bright and early in the morning, and I had front-row seats. Fluttershy blushed, getting up from the bed and peering out the window. She could see Big Mac's pickup truck pulling out of the driveway. Turning back to her friend, she exhaled and crossed over to her.
I love that Big Mac has a pickup truck. And what do you bet that's probably a Ford F-150, if anything, as well? I don't know. It's just Big Mac seems like the F-150 type of guy. Fluttershy tries to moan on about literally being objectified so that Rainbow Dash could sit there and get her jollies off from hiding. But Dash interjects with the chapter title, "What did I say about Sattershy?"
Fluttershy smiled and hugged her. Sattershy isn't welcome because you like it better when I smile. Rainbow cocked her eye. You've never been on your hands and knees before?
That's not supposed to happen yet. Don't need to hear about hands and knees. Anyway, I got it here. Guys, it's happening. Finally add to the red flag counter. And we get here. There we go. So, Alice honestly seems like a borderline emotional abuse to me. Like, I can play that again.
Fluttershy smiled and hugged her. Sattershy isn't welcome because you like it better when I smile. Burning flames
Oh,
a portion of the cabin lit. Good night, bye. Unable rainbow.
I
Why?
broke it.
Kissing herself. Get ready to ride the rainbow.
Oh, that's way too far.
I'm sorry, Fluttershy moaned. A stab of guilt. Big Mac pulled Fluttershy against him, kissing. Big Mac kissed her neck. Hey, word rainbow. I'm sorry, Fluttershy. Big Mac kissed her. Sorry, Shy. Unable to resist. Rainbow cocked her eye. Unable to resist. Fluttershy smiled.
Shy isn't welcome. It's actually hard to say. Oh, behave, why don't you? Okay. Nuts. Everything's going a little crazy. Because it's reacting to the craziness in the story here. Because that, honestly, that whole Sattershy thing kind of seems like might be emotional abuse to me. I'm no expert on that, but it's just still kind of creepy to me. They've, like, just literally got together, like, the previous evening, the last chapter. Rainbow Dash already trying to use her Riz there to gaslight, Sattershy, Fluttershy, into becoming, like, this Stepford wife. Like, oh, you should just always smile and be happy about the abuse I put on that. It's really not a good sign of stuff to come. Speaking of coming, having the script here, apparently this was just the right thing to get if Fluttershy, this was just the right thing to give Fluttershy her mojo back, or maybe the very obvious attempt at emotional manipulation actually worked here, because she literally throws herself at Rainbow Dash, begging for that hot, nasty pony love.
Unable to resist, Fluttershy smiled and Rainbow cocked her eye. You've never been on your hands and knees before? No, Fluttershy confessed, rolling onto her stomach and getting onto all fours. Well, once, but you saw just now Mac lives up to his name. It hurt. Really hurt. I never did it again.
Apparently Mac is a throbbing horsecock. He's got a huge throbbing horsecock. And we never actually saw just now, like, this is a bad writing thing that really bothers me here. Like, oh, you saw just now, like, shut up. No, we didn't. The author neglected to show us, and only now, after the fact, we are being told. Like, this is all tell, no show. No, after, when it would have mattered. Anyway. I should also point out, instead of brawny paper towels, man, I have the Equestria Girls version of Big Mac. It's what he looks like. Maybe not what you expect, maybe it is. He can hang out there in the IKEA. And see, I'm just sitting here like, well, I'm glad that the author didn't make him a black guy, considering the amount of, like, negative stereotypes that the story just keeps cramming onto the poor fellow. It really doesn't help that he's, like, one of the only male characters in the Stockholm fic at all. I do think it is one thing I'll say for this, give a few props, is that they or subverting the whole bigger is better in bed cliche that we get in like so much erotica. Like, it's not much, but it's something. Oh boy. I skipped past quite a bit here, but we get some kind of disgusting description of tips lining up with nethers. We do get a mention that Rainbow Dash has had a constant erection for the past 11 hours in the story, by the way. I think if that's happening, Rainbow Dash, you actually have, like, a serious medical condition. And it'd be best to have, like, a doctor look at that. Because that is insane. Like, imagine, like, it's just, like, turning purple, like, drying up and, like, falling off after 11 hours. Like, come the fuck on. Have written here that Rainbow Dash proceeds to go pony riding. She stops right before ejaculation, much to Fluttershy's chagrin.
Why? Fluttershy managed to ask between moans, angling her head a bit. Yo, Rainbow, it's fine. I'm on contraceptives. You didn't see Mac put on a condom just now anyway. Now finish me off. You too. Now please. Rainbow bit her lip, remembering her doctors once tell her that her odd hormone imbalances made chemical contraceptives significantly less effective. Sorry, Shy, I can't. Special cases.
That's right. Her being a dick girl pony apparently gave Rainbow Dash super sperm as well, rendering contraceptives all but ineffective. Realizing this could be a problem, especially if Fluttershy got pregnant with some weird fetus, like one that was a mutant with like 2 penises or something, Rainbow decides to use Fluttershy's mouth instead. Oh god, this fanfic's gonna murder me. I am actually sparing you so much, by the way. Like, this is so much of this chapter. Just endless paragraphs of poorly written smut going through, like, the motions of this. You guys need to thank me. Like, you have no idea how much smut I'm combing out. Like, I know this seems, like, really dirty and smutty, like everything I'm talking about and going through here, but you have no idea how much just, like, by the books, like, erotic sex scene writing we're getting shoved, just totally being ignored here. It's really, honestly, just a testament to how slowly a lot of the story moves along.
Herself, Fluttershy worked faster and harder, ongoing with her plan to make this unforgettable for her friend. Even her teeth joined in on the action as they lightly grazed along the skin, but didn't bite down.
So that's... the teeth thing is weird to me, okay? It's where I start thinking the author's main experience with sex at the time of writing this was via, like, weird porno or whatever, because... like, I'll be honest, like, dudes normally don't like getting their dicks nibbled on at all. Like, it doesn't normally feel good. That's, like, the opposite of desirable. I don't know, it's just weird. Anyway. Oh, God. I can't believe I actually wrote this. We have to go over it. We have to talk about Dash finishes and Fluttershy swallows, but only a little bit before gagging. Because the author wanted us to gag as well, we get a vivid description of the taste of the semen. Apparently, the girl dick semen tastes the same as a dude, except there's an extra mystery flavor to it as well. Like, it's like when you have, like, one of those, like, question mark flavor or Fantas or something. Like, Dude, that's fucking fanfic, man. And for all I know, it could be just the taste is the taste of the super semen that Fluttershy has, like making her pregnant through her throat or something really dumb and disgusting like that. But I really don't want to think about it too much. Like, this is already gross enough as it is. So, well, our two heroines might be finished for the time being. This chapter still has a bit to go. Man, I forgot I threw in like lame puns and jokes here too. No. And we find out that this isn't Rainbow Dash's first time having sex, of course. But the problem is she's not built like other women in the My Little Pony universe. So when she wants to have sex, she goes down to a glory hole that exists in a restroom in the southern end of Ponyville. I just want to say, like, for anybody out there, in case you're wondering, I have never, not once, not ever, thought about where the characters in any one of these children's cartoons that someone like my 9-year-old niece would be watching. I have never thought about where they would go for anonymous sex in a dirty, stinky bathroom in that world. Like, the very concept just seems fucked up to me. And you're fucked in the head if you're thinking about that sort of stuff. Which, I guess fanfiction.net is just not the intended audience for me. I don't know. Also, with regards to the glory hole thing, because just I have another thought about that, is that, we found out about Rainbow Dash's super semen, right? Like, Rainbow Dash better have been using a condom back then. Otherwise, there's like probably a whole bunch of female ponies running around pregnant with like super mutant spawn in them or whatever, and that's horrifying to think about. Then we get a whole thing of a bottom text or of a Fluttershy, shy, shrinking violet of a character. Talks about being a bottom.
Blushing a bit, Fluttershy smiled as she lay back against her pillows. You can take charge of me any day. I love to be submissive. Like being bottom submissive, or the kind of freaky shit that Twilight gets up to with her wife submissive. Rainbow asked, Be bottom submissive. Fluttershy squeaked, shaking her head. I think that's too much, even for Mem. Especially for you, Rainbow joked. Last time I was over there, Twilight was showing me her collection of hammers. What's so bad about that? Fluttershy asked. She doesn't hammer anything, Rainbow said with a chuckle. And guess who was wearing a sling?
Good heavens. I guess the only thing that was getting hammered was her wife. Oh, I got something better for this. I guess the only thing getting hammered was her wife. Oh, Jesus, man. The terrible sitcom humor. I told you that's going to be a thing on this going forward. So this is the first time in the story that Twilight Sparkle has come up. And, oh boy, get ready for that. She has this kinky relationship with her wife we're getting introduced to. But I do think the hammer thing like is pretty out there for BDSM and goes straight to red flag territory for me. So we can hide that. And we can not hide that. We add on to that. That's our third red flag here. And I'm not even complaining that much. Like, I am honestly into some stuff that, like, as far as kink, like, most people would consider pretty extreme, pretty out there. By most definitions, even then, some of the stuff's weird.
Get ready to ride the rainbow, she smirked.
Guys, all I can think of when I hear that is like the sickest, most degenerate Skittles commercial ever. Like, guys, get ready to ride the rainbow. And they're like sticking Skittles up their ass or something. Something equally weird. We get what I assume to be another non-existent fade to black. Mercifully, we're spared the paragraph after endless paragraph of stupid smut. And the very next paragraph after the Ride the Rainbow comment is about Fluttershy making grilled cheese sandwiches. So that's great. Rainbow Dash enters the room in clear distress.
Twilight soon arrived.
Oh, and we don't have it. We don't have it. That's Twilight Sparkle. That's not Rainbow Dash. What happened? Fluttershy glanced at her over her shoulder. Kids playing hockey, Rainbow grumbled. Kept taking a hockey puck to the nets every time I tried to cross through. Took a hockey puck to the nads, guys. And then what happened? What happened next? Oh, I crossed through again and the kids threw another hockey puck at the same spot. Apparently it's not just cold and wintry out there, but it's also Canada. Or, at the very least, Minnesota. But no, I thought the hockey comment was a little odd. A little funny. Just comes out of nowhere. I also feel like there's probably a joke in there, whether it's intentional or not, but something about Rainbow Dash being like the only girl in Ponyville who would be susceptible to nut shots like that. And like the kids are just like obliviously doing it. Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy settle in for a cozy evening of grilled cheese sandwiches and snuggling. During their snuggle session, Fluttershy talks about the first time that they met, and Rainbow Dash like fought off some school bullies that were being mean to Fluttershy and such. It's honestly pretty vanilla and uninteresting as far as meet cute stories go, so I didn't quote it or anything, just kind of skimming past it. We're told that Twilight Sparkle, the purple unicorn pony that we haven't actually met yet, is going to be visiting with her wife pretty soon, and Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy get in some quick, dirty pony sex yet again before they have the company, and for some reason this chapter is still going. Like, it just never ends. Like, Like, I honestly feel like that would have been a really good chapter break point. This chapter's like twice as long as it needs to be. But boy, we got some great stuff to cover here. When we get to Twilight Sparkle, let's go.
The hour, as expected, Twilight soon arrived. Alongside her pet, as she was affectionately referred to.
No, guys. No red flags. Not yet. Her pet, though, is someone called Essentia, by the way. The story doesn't explain this at all. We're just kind of left to guess that that's who she is by the context of this Essentia person all of a sudden it keeps showing up in dialogue, and that's like the only other person in the room that it could be. So this is like just another bad writing example that came to mind here. Now, like I say, I'm not really an expert at My Little Pony Friendship is Magic lore or like minor background characters. And I didn't know who Essentia was, so I had to look that up. And it turns out she's an original creation by Lily Orchard. And basically a bunch of her fanfics like had a shared universe and all had that character. It's kind of like a horny version of the MCU with My Little Pony characters. There's even a wiki on like the Scars story and all of this shit, right? So she's from like the Rise of the Valkyrie fanfic, and it's like, from what I was able to figure, it's like she's this godlike entity from a planet-destroying race called the Valkyr, with a dumb apostrophe in it because science fiction or whatever. You know, who kills a bunch of powerful characters, including Princess Celestia, and then gets talked out of destroying the entire world by Twilight Sparkle through like power of friendship speech or something. After that, she has a change of heart, becomes a good guy, and then becomes Twilight Sparkle's lover eventually, and they marry at some point, like before the story happens. I don't know. Maybe I'll read that fanfic at some point, but that would mean reading another novel-length fanfic by Lily Orchard, so I don't know. Oh! And we got some... I forgot about this one. This one's crazy and it has some lore behind it. Why are you so squished? Be less squished. So this is like canon fan art, guys. So that Ethel video mentioned somebody called Nintendo Gal 88. From what I understand, that person, like, she actually ghost wrote copious amounts of Stockholm for Lily Orchard at the time. And this is some fan art she did of Essentia and Twilight Sparkle. So enjoy that.
She nodded, then went to the kitchen to prepare some tea. All the while, Twilight stretched a bit, glancing toward Rainbow. She frowned slightly upon noticing a very minor but noticeable bulge along the crotch line of her short.
So this one kind of baffles me. Like, these ponies have all been like best friends for years, right? Nobody has ever noticed that Rainbow Dash has a rocket in her pocket, even though it's like super obvious at this moment. Like, she even said like she's explicitly attracted to girls, and she's like, I don't know, did she have gym class or anything? Like, it just, like, they were best friends for their teenage years. I'm just not even sure how this is possible. Maybe Twilight Sparkle had this, like, transvestigation radar that was broken, and she just got it repaired after talking to Chaya Raichik and J.K. Rowling, and like, oh, I see crotch bulge. Oh, little aside here. It's crazy because I was seeing like quartering tweet about that like Algerian boxer, that like Imane Khalif or whatever, like looking for like crotch bulges, even though like she's biologically female, like as far as like body, like, so it's like completely meaningless. It's crazy. These people are crazy. Also, apparently Essentia can tell that they just had sex. Like, I guess she has like a dog nose. Either that, or it could be that they just really stink of it because they never did actually get that promised shower that was talked about earlier in this chapter. Anyway, Fluttershy makes an excuse about having been with Big Mac at the beginning of the chapter, but that was like 3 sex scenes ago. Like, if you're keeping count here, so... They continue talking, they all banter while eating some soup, and talk about how deep the snow is, because this is still taking place in winter, where they're in their cozy cabin there. There's some stuff about Rainbow Dash jumping off the roof into a snowbank, which honestly sounds like a lot more fun than spending your days indoor reading something like Stockholm. Unless you're me, you like just enjoy some bad fiction, I guess. Twilight Sparkle mentions she's going on a quest to like exotic faraway locations like the country of the zebra people or whatever. It's totally unimportant and just extraneous detail that they waste words on. In a better fanfic, I feel like that would be the plot. And, like, it wouldn't just be about sexcapades, and, like, this would be, like, a vehicle for better and more interesting sexcapades. But no, that's not what we get. That's not Stockholm. That's not what we get. So, we're just gonna move on.
Hey, Twilight, you and Essentia were friends with benefits before you got married, right? Rainbow asked casually while Fluttershy fretted over the kettle. Twilight looked at her with a bewildered expression, setting her tea down. Did you drink a lot during school? We were high school sweethearts. I mean, you two and the others went to some pretty major lengths to hook us up.
See, I love that Twilight Sparkle here is noticing that Fluttershy is asking about something they should already both know the answer to, and that she's like solely asking that question for the benefit of the reader because bad writing reasons. Like, this is just something you're told not to do when giving exposition dumps. It's basic stuff, but I gotta give her props that Twilight Sparkle lampshades this, and it's like, oh, you must have damaged your brain cells from alcoholism to forget, like, all about my life like that. I'm inclined to agree, like, look at this face. This is the face of an alcoholic. This is a pony that destroyed her life through beer. Beer and vodka. She had a couple too many Jello shots, a couple too many vodka martinis, and now this is what she's become. You made her sad. And remember what I said about Sattershy? Anyway, Twilight Sparkle notices pretty weird that Fluttershy is just asking about friends with benefits out of nowhere. Like, I didn't skip, like, any prelude to that. She just blurts that out. Her and essentially give her a bit of dating advice, but it's actually, like, terrible dating advice that tells Fluttershy something like 9 times out of 10, the person who suggests the idea of friends with benefits usually has feelings for the one they're suggesting it to anyway. And that, like, author seems to be convinced, like, friends with benefits means that they don't have feelings for each other. It's like loveless aromantic sex, which is not true normally. In fact, I would say it's more the opposite problem. Like, it's not that you're going to get into a deep relationship with your friend out of that, guaranteed. But, like, that's actually, just speaking from experience, like a really good way to wreck a good friendship. Like, you guys were friends before? Became friends with benefits. They're very, very quickly not going to want to be your friend anymore. Like, oftentimes, that's how it works out. And they might be resentful of that, so want to think carefully before you do it. So that's my advice, gained through life experience. So they're still wondering why this is all being asked. Dash makes up some lame excuse about trying to hit up some guy from out of town. This, and then we get
Rainbow shrugged, sipping her tea. Whatever. He's a handsome, manly man. You know me, I love me some manliness. Manly. Manly, I tell you. See, that's why I'm so jealous of Flutters right now. She's strapping Big Mac. Oh man, I hear he lives up to his name. Fluttershy snorted discreetly behind her hand, then sipped her tea. Essentia and Twilight both looked Rainbow flat in the eye for a moment, then said in unison, "Okay, so you're a raging lesbian."
See, unlike Big Mac, Twilight, Essentia are not stupid. They can actually read all the obvious clues that are being left behind. Like, it is weird to me, though, they're, like, saying that line in unison. Like, how often are they sitting at home, like, practicing, "Okay, so you're a raging lesbian. Once again, okay, so you're a raging lesbian." Like, so that they can blurt it out in perfect unison on just the off chance that's ever going to be useful in a conversation, ever. Also, all the, like, manliness means I gotta bring back Brawny Paper Towel Man, don't I? I just feel like it's time. Oh yeah, he's not optimized. He's gonna be huge. Oh, he's not huge. He's right size this time. Perfect. Well, he can hang out there by the IKEA sign. That's great. I love it.
Deep in the closet, you're finding Christmas presents. Essentia smirked, then flinched. A few seconds passed, she looked up at Twilight.
Jesus. Twilight Sparkle apparently finds that hilarious, though, because she decides to not hurt Essentia for that comment. This is something I've been skipping over so far, but no, in their conversation, like, every time Essentia's, like, said something sassy, Twilight Sparkle responds by, like, hurting her in some way, like stomping on her foot, pulling on her ear. Because the two of them enjoy a little horseplay. No, but really, like, I don't want to see that. Um, I could complain about it. I don't really think it's red flag worthy. It's just kind of something that happens.
Yeah, and the two of them are married, Rainbow groaned. We're gonna be hearing their borderline abusive sex all night. Fluttershy shuddered. I had to stay over with them once. I was up all night. They didn't stop. It was so endless. How beat up?
Oh. Skipping ahead, we didn't get the bit with the snowplow? Did I miss that? Because Twilight was about to speak when a loud rumble came from outside, getting louder until a scraping sound came by the door, and the rumbling drifted off. Essentia, please tell me a plow didn't just trap us in here, Twilight groaned. Essentia got up and looked out the window. Yeah, we're stuck. I am going to tan your hide for that later, she growled. Why, it's not her fault, Fluttershy defended. Look, it's okay. We have plenty of room for you two, anyway. You can stay in the other guest room if you want. So we're told the snowplow is not going to come by until the next morning, which means that all four of them are trapped in the cozy cabin while their chicken noodle soup and their grilled cheese sandwiches. And that means an evening full of hijinks. Actually, what we get is a riveting discussion of where to room Essentia and Twilight instead. That's like what we were hearing there.
And the two of them are married, Rainbow groaned. We're gonna be hearing their borderline abusive sex all night. Fluttershy shuddered. I had to stay over with them once. I was up all night. They didn't stop. It was so endless. How beat up did she look the next morning, Rainbow asked, almost afraid to find out. If it weren't consensual and I didn't know any better, I would have sworn she was a battered girlfriend of an abuser. Fluttershy moaned at the memory, shaking her head.
And like I say, I have no problem with some kink, but this is really uncomfortable. Like, the fact that like Essentia was apparently up all night getting tortured sounds a lot like actual torture and not like kink. Like, feels good. It's gonna get much worse, by the way, as we find out. So yeah, that's a big fat red flag. A big fat red flag. Okay. Gotta just keep on chugging through this, because this keeps coming like we still got quite a few pages of this chapter left, actually. Rainbow and Fluttershy decide that even though they are running the risk of getting caught, they will still try for some sneaky sex during the night, because these ponies are like so oversexed they can't keep their libidos in check for like even a day. Like, they've had sex 3 times already just in this chapter. Anyway, Rainbow calls Fluttershy a bottom, and the story itself, for some reason, which I found this really weird, I guess because she has pink hair or whatever, it refers to Fluttershy as a pink cat. I don't think that's a real word or anything, whatever.
Ha ha, I got you again, Twilight declared, pinning her to the floor and laughing. That'll teach you! Now, surrender. Essentia struggled under her weight but fell limp. I surrender. Amused as she was, Fluttershy inwardly groaned. This is going to be a long evening.
Um, guess what we get next paragraph. Because we're hearing, oh, this is going to be a long evening of kinky sex. Nope. Instead, we get all four of them calmly sitting around the cozy fire, drinking hot chocolate. They're just chilling out, having a good time. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. This is what happens. Fluttershy decides that while they're all hanging out there, it would be perfect time for explanation of just what the hell is going on with Twilight and Essentia's relationship. We get this.
Fluttershy sipped her hot chocolate, gathering her thoughts for a few moments. Well, we don't want to judge you both. At least not intentionally. But we just never quite understand why you two go so far with well, BDSM elements of your relationship. Essentia always looks like the battered victim. It must be painful. Doesn't that get uncomfortable after a while? Twilight lowered her hot chocolate for a moment, blushing a little. Well, if I can be perfectly honest, Shy, that's kind of how it started.
I don't like where this is going. Like, that's a red flag for me, dog. That's a red flag.
Been married for a little while at the time, Twilight explained. It was a time when my duties as a ruler of Equestria had been getting more numerous and more tiring. I was stressed out all the time, and eventually I started taking it out on her. Oh, I get it. So it's all, grr, I'm so stressed out, I'm gonna hit you. And she liked it? Rainbow snickered. Actually, no, Twilight said. The thing is, at first it seemed to people like Essentia was a battered G-girlfriend, because she was. At the start, it wasn't some kinky game we played. I was actually letting my anger and stress get the better of me. And for a while, I didn't even realize what I'd been doing. There was one time She trailed off, looking a little guilty with herself while Essentia reached up and stroked her cheek.
Hold on just a second. Get some audio. And this is the icky part of the story. All right. So, yeah, that whole paragraph, like, oh my god, oh my fucking god, like, Jeebus, save us. Twilight Sparkle just straight up admits to being an abusive piece of shit that repeatedly battered her spouse. Like, there's no getting around that here. That's exactly what happens. The first time I read this part, I legit hoped that someone would just go in, like, kick the shit out of Twilight Sparkle, because that's just, like, how bad she is. And let's be honest here, like, the whole, oh, I was stressed out from doing princess stuff and needed a way to vent. It's, like, not an excuse. It doesn't make it better at all. It's abhorrent. It's sick. It's a red flag.
Consensual, Fluttershy asked, deciding not to let her friend delve into an uncomfortable recollection.
Fluttershy, dear, that's already terribly, terribly uncomfortable recollection. Like, I just want to apologize. Like, to everyone, because I'm not skimming this section. It's like I'm actually spending way more time on these couple of paragraphs than the story is, but that's like how screwed up they are. Like, I have so much to say, like so much to rant about this fucked up shit. Like, it's like we'll get nothing and nothing and nothing in these chapters, and we just get like a double whammy of the grossest, worst bullshit ever. And then we'll get like chapters of nothing, and that's how this entire fanfic is. It's crazy. Like, 5 words you never want to hear ever is, how did it become consensual, okay? Because that's just straight up abuse apology anytime you hear it. I don't care the context. Like, it doesn't become consensual. It can shift into doing the same things, but on a consensual basis. That doesn't make the non-consensual acts in the past all of a sudden consensual. This is really important distinction. Like, even if Essentia is okay with getting battered now, that doesn't excuse Twilight doing that against her consent in the past when she wasn't all right with it. Like, that still exists. And you can't get past that. That's... Oh my god. And here's another thing. It shouldn't be a hot take. Even if Essentia knowingly in sound mind consented to further abuse at the hooves of Twilight Sparkle, that doesn't make it okay. Oh, we got so much more still.
Funny story, Twilight said sheepishly. Some of the guards in Canterlot caught me assaulting her and had me hauled into the courtroom. The only reason I didn't get charged with assault, battery, and rape was because Essentia had the charges dropped. Said that I hadn't done anything she wanted to punish me for. When we got home, she said she wanted it to continue. Told me she liked being a battered girlfriend. She's kinda weird that way.
Guys. Red flag warning. We got... I gotta give him out here. We get 1 for Twilight Sparkle assaulting her spouse. Another 1 for the battery. And yet another for the rape. That brings us to... That's an extra 3. That brings us to 9 of these suckers. Oh, this story, this chapter just destroying me. Like, Twilight just straight up admitting to being a sex criminal here. Like, and we're not... Like, we're still far away from getting to, like, any of the stuff about minors or anything in this. And that's why I say, like, even if, like, all that stuff was added in by trolls or whatever, this still sucks. This is still horrifying. And you should be ashamed of this, because this is disgusting. And the disturbing thing, too, is that this sort of stuff does happen in real life, where you got the partner will ask to have the charges dropped against their abuser, right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert on this stuff. My understanding is, like, real-life cops actually do investigating. They actually take into account things like evidence and things like other eyewitnesses and other people pressing charges against the couple. Like, in a case like this, both of them could be found guilty. know, of perpetuating the abuse. And even if we get to that, like, I shouldn't have to say this, but if we just set aside the assault and battery and say that's whatever, Essentia likes it, rape is never okay, okay? It's, I am hard-pressed to think of, like, a single situation where we could consider that being justifiable either. Like, it just doesn't come up. It doesn't happen. I can't say there is no justifying it, but it's close. Now, Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, who, again, have their own weird kinks that we'll find out about later, do find this weird and gross. But then they just kind of shrug it all off, instead of, like, trying to call the cops or something. Of course, they could be smart. It could be they realize, like, just based on what she said, like, Twilight Sparkle is the princess of the kingdom, literally runs their entire world, including said palace guards. In fact, she could probably just murder somebody in cold blood and still get away with it because, well, no, it's good to be the king, it's good to be the princess, right? What we get instead is Dash and Shy doing some victim blaming and shaming Essentia for being so messed up in the head.
A lot of people feel that way, Essentia chuckled. You have no idea how many times Rarity's tried dragging me to see her psychologist. Says I have Stockholm Syndrome. Dude, you kinda do, Rainbow pointed out with a snort. Receiving a glare from Twilight, she rolled her eyes. Don't give me that look. I said you do. I didn't say get help. There's a difference. Twilight blinked and sat back. Good point. Essentia smiled and leaned back against Twilight's legs. In that case, I like my Stockholm Syndrome.
I'll say it. I'll say what they don't say. Essentia, go get help. Get help now. Twilight Sparkle is a monster and a tyrant of a princess that doesn't understand boundaries, doesn't actually care about your feelings. She's just using you to vent. If you want that, you could find somebody out there that actually cares about your feelings and cares about satisfying you. Like, somebody who's not a criminal, not an evil tyrant who needs to be deposed. Like, I don't know, maybe the other Valkyrie or something. Like, from what I've read about them, they seem pretty kinky. Also, I feel like at this point, when Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy are like, oh, that's cute, they're not doing anything, you can't become an accessories to the continuance of said abuse. Because they, like, recognize it as abuse, and they, like, kind of agree to do nothing and just stay quiet about it. And I'm like, oh, fuck that. That can get the red flag. That's like just pure nope. Like, the counter, it's going nuts. Just all of a sudden, it just popping off. Like, Stockholm Syndrome's a serious thing, and it's disturbing and disgusting. Like, your reactions should be like a mix of horror as well as pity for the victim. It shouldn't be, oh, how cute, how sweet. Like, and based on what I've heard from, like, people covering the drama and such, this seems to reflect, like, Lily Orchard's, like, actual feelings in regards to this stuff. And even, if the allegations are true or whatever, like, that's fucked up. That's super sick. Super disturbing. Anyway, I gotta move on because I'm just gonna get more and more angry thinking about it. So we do have the spare guest room, which they brought up back in the snowplow thing and then, like, forgot about because they got into this, like, whole multi-paragraph argument over what bedroom they'd use. I skipped it. It was a big waste of text, which is just corroborated by this whole thing. They promised not to spill any blood or guts on Fluttershy's mom's house, so we find out just now that Fluttershy has a mom. The mom owns the house. I feel like, no, when you're talking about spilling blood and guts, like, that sounds more and more like a serial killer in training. Like she's doing murder Essentia one of these days. No, I'm not sure how Essentia survived this long. It's a miracle. I mean, I guess being Valkyrie or whatever gives her, like, mythical healing powers or something. And as soon as they're out of the room, by the way, Rainbow Dash starts displaying a bit of sense. Actually tries to call the cops. And even though Fluttershy's like, you can't do that to a friend, Rainbow Dash, like, gonna call the cops. 'Cause this is fucked.
She waited for a minute when it picked up Equestrian Royal Guard. How can I help you today? Rainbow, maybe you shouldn't. I want to report a case of domestic abuse, Rainbow said flatly. Do you know who the perpetrator is, ma'am? Princess Twilight Sparkle, Rainbow said. Princess Twilight Wait a minute, this case again? This is the 12th time this month. Look, ma'am, we've investigated Princess Twilight's case a number of times. But Mrs. Sparkle has assured us that she will not press charges. Unless we get a call from her, I'm not sending any more men out there to harass the princess and her wife. I'm sorry, but that's the final word on this case. Click. Rainbow looked incredulous. She hung up on me. Oh.
I mean, of course, we find out that no, Twilight Sparkle is, of course, massively corrupt, runs the Royal Guard. They all seem to obey her and Essentia. There's literally nobody in the world who can bring her to justice, nobody they can go to. Apparently, none of those 12 other people who reported the case can be allowed to press charges themselves, because it's all Essentia and Twilight Sparkle, I guess, no, being royalty or whatever, that matters. I also want to point out here that something just kind of funny I just noticed is that, like, we get the, like, capitalized, like, click at the end of the phone call, but it's also in the quotation marks, meaning that the guard on the other line, no, instead of hanging up, just literally says click to end the phone call. Which is a hilarious way to hang up, I think. I need some levity in this, guys. We're getting through it. We're almost done with this chapter now. Anyway, Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy forget about the cops. They go have some more pony sex, this time 69 style. We hear about stiff shafts and tangy nectar on tongues and all that stuff. Then this time Fluttershy swallows because she just acquired the taste for that mystery flavor that Rainbow Dash has. But once you try the mystery flavor, you can't stop tasting the mystery flavor. It's just so yummy and mysterious. That whole sex scene, by the way, is undercut with, like, Three Stooges type, like, slapstick comedy noises coming from the other room where Twilight and Essentia are, with things like, oh, you bitch, and, like, I'm going to make you pay, and, like, it's nonsense. It's crazy. Eventually the morning does come, though. The road is clear, meaning everyone can finally leave, except apparently Essentia, who hasn't been through enough suffering yet.
Twilight smiled at her wife. That's good. We have a lot to do before I leave. What am I going to do with you while I'm gone? The two of them gathered their bags and boots, getting ready to leave. Maybe I'll handcuff you to the bedroom door while I'm gone, she smirked. Won't I starve if I'm stuck there for 2 weeks? Cynthia asked. Good point. I'll handcuff you to the fridge door.
I that one actually does make me laugh a little bit. It's fucked up. And it's part of the abuse dynamic still, but like I feel like there's a bit of black comedy like that. Like, no, you can't handcuff me to the door. I'll starve to death. No, I'll just handcuff you to the fridge instead. And she's just like sitting on the kitchen floor, like pulls out a slice of cake from the fridge, eats it, like goes back there, like being prisoner to the fridge. Anyway, Twilight Sparkle ends up not doing that. And they say a bunch of goodbyes. The terrible tyrant princess eventually leaves on her grand adventure. She takes Essentia with her. We're going to cap off this gauntlet of a chapter with one last remark.
Hey, if Twilight can openly slap her wife and nobody bats an eye, I think we can pass off that we aren't sleeping together, Rainbow said, leaning back looking cocky. Fluttershy considered. True. Well, I don't even think anyone says things about us anyway. Nah, I don't think they'll suspect anything. See? We're in the clear. Rainbow grinned, putting an arm around her.
Like, seems like such an abusive logic. Like, you get that, right? So their grand plan for not getting caught is just to, like, hope nobody in Ponyville noticed the whole Emperor has no clothes thing. Like, no, they'll just, like, keep on pretending and being oblivious, and, like, everybody is just gonna buy that shit. And maybe it'll work, too. Like, given how clueless Big Mac is in the story, like, it's not that far-fetched, and like the author can just make whatever happen, so yeah. Anyway, that's chapter 2. It didn't start out that terrible. It's mostly just kind of standard, like rom-com stereotypes with the Big Mac and such. It got really gross and uncomfortable, like, as soon as Ascension Twilight Sparkle, the Tyrant Princess, entered the story, though. Like, just based on, like, the red flag counter alone, I would have to say Chapter 2 is, like, 10 times worse than Chapter 1. You would think by that logic, if we were going on like a trend, like Chapter 3 will be 10 times worse than that, like 100 times worse than Chapter 1, but I'll just spoil this for you right now. That's not going to be the case. Like, it's still going to be bad, but it's not going to be that sort of insanity, so... And that is Twilight Chapters 1 and 2 for today. Oh, no, I don't go away. I'll get rid of the counter, get rid of Brawny Man. You know, Fluttershy can stay for a little bit. Get rid of it. Although, man, that if any image fits this fanfic, it's that one, because that captures, like, how I look right now, like, how I feel. In fact, you know what? Move that on over here. That is me from now on. Guys, I am in pain. I hurt. Like, I am actually, like, in a bit of physical discomfort today. And so, like, just hearing that essential stuff again, it's like, oh, fuck this. Oh, well. I still enjoy doing this a lot, though, with you guys. Fucking with my mic audio. So I'll see you all, not tomorrow, but perhaps Friday or Saturday. And I'm hoping to get through chapters 3, 4, and 5 of this thing then. I'm also hoping to go through like a J.D. Vance's book. Give that this treatment. Really go in depth in that and like his philosophy, what makes him tick, and all that jazz. I think that should be really interesting and relevant with the election coming up. So please check that out. Stay tuned. I have a Discord. Drop the invite link in chat. I have... There you go. If you want to check out my Discord, we have a lot of fun there. Used to like shit on Keffels in there. Now we like do crazy stuff, like talk about some crazy books I just recently bought for like super cheap, like a couple bucks, like an actual physical copy of Tom Cratman's A Desert Called Peace. I can't wait to get into that and its insanity. That'll be so much fun. So spoilers on that, but no, we'll probably get some Tom Cratman reading and sparking in the future. It's like that's like the story that like inspired all of this that you're getting right now. So excited about that. Super stoked. And I'll probably see you all on the weekend sometime. All right. Bye.